Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and why I believe the next move coming is going to be very volatile one way or another. This is a time where we've spent over a month inside of this consolidation for Bitcoin, and we're now actually seeing the S&P 500 breaking out. Anytime the S&P 500 breaks out, Bitcoin always benefits, and there's always new money that comes back into the crypto markets. Now that we're seeing this, is this finally the point where we're going to see Bitcoin make new highs and finally get outside of this consolidation? Or is this ultimately just going to be a fake out like all of the other times before? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, now here we are to start off today's video. We're going to touch up with what we talked about on Monday and Tuesday, and then giving you guys kind of where I think the Bitcoin market is headed from here. Now, what we talked about on Monday and Tuesday was more or less that we were waiting to see whether the market was going to pull back and come back down and retest the low end of this support range. And that's exactly what ended up happening. We ended up pulling back. We came back down to retest this, and we did see a bounce, and that's kind of where we're at right now, is right in the in-between stage, where we did see a bounce off of the range lows, and now we're kind of pulling back into the mid-range point. And so from here, this is really where we're going to be able to decide whether this is going to hold a support, whether this will act as a retest, and whether we're actually going to make one more run back up to the range highs, being around $29,000. And that was what we talked about in that last video, understanding whether or not this was going to hold, and if it did hold, understanding that most likely that was going to lead to us coming all the way back up to retest the range highs once again. And so nothing changes. That's going to continue to be the same analysis, and we're going to continue to watch that from here. However, understand guys, in the same way that we were talking about how if we see kind of a big rejection candle like this, then we could actually be looking at this being a breakdown, right? So if this ends up selling off, this comes all the way back down to basically the range lows being here, or even all the way back down here at the low end of this green box, then at that point we would assume that this is going to be breaking down. But we're at this interesting time where this can very easily hold support of this mid-range, and then that can set us in for basically that next leg up into the range highs. But that'll kind of be where we're going to dictate whether we're going to be able to get outside of these range highs and start that next leg up or not. Because guys, we've been in this consolidation for a while, right? I'm going to remove the drawing tools. We've been stuck inside of this consolidation for quite a long period of time. Now, the big thing I want you guys to remember is what we've been watching for was more or less a retest of this 25K range. And that was kind of where I was expecting that if we sold off and retested that, that was the first area of demand for Bitcoin. And from there, we'd be able to assess the situation and dictate whether Bitcoin was probably going to break out or whether, we needed still further downside before we were going to get enough buy support. And as it stands, the S&P 500 is really what is telling me that Bitcoin could very easily continue to go up from here, because we did see this sell-off right here. This big wick came down, and it got close enough to that support that I would consider that a confirmed retest if, in fact, we're able to hold support right where we're at. Now, with the S&P 500, notice how we've basically been retesting and consolidating right here on this descending resistance. And I told you guys how as long as we hold this as support, that was going to be the point where I would expect that we would make a move upwards of about 4,300, and that would break out and make a new high. And so as it stands, we're making that rally back up. We can see that in the last couple days, we've had some nice buy action. So the second that this makes a new high, we can kind of get above that. I think that that's where we're going to be setting us in for 4,300. And depending on how big this next breakout gets is really where we're going to see how big the breakout for Bitcoin is. If the S&P 500 runs up to 4,300, then I think that Bitcoin itself will probably make a new high. And, what I've been talking about based off of a blow off top has always been more or less this level here being about $40,000 all the way up to about $48,500. And that's kind of where I expected that if we were to see a blow off top, it could very easily end up being something like that, right? Before starting a much bigger sell-off in the cycle. And that's still the same thing I'm sticking to. If we break down from this, then that obviously gives us an idea of where to target for the downside. We're still watching this 25K level, but because we already got this wick to the downside to get close enough to a retest, we now need to be watching for the short term to be bouncing. The S&P 500 is bullish. That's always a bullish sign for Bitcoin. And so with Bitcoin already having retested that range, I think that we can watch for this to also hold in the short term. For me, guys, the obvious scenario anytime you're trying to play a support and resistance range is long support. So this is our support down in here, and this is our resistance, I would probably say up here at about 29.2. So we have support down in here and resistance up here. Anytime we have hit this, we've fallen to the downside. Anytime we've hit this, we've bounced to the upside. And so until that trend changes, because we had this retest of support, and even though we broke down here, we instantly reclaimed it, and then we even held it right here and produced another bounce, we have to keep in mind that the likelihood scenario is that this ends up bouncing back to the upside. And understand, if this ends up selling off like that, then obviously we'd be looking for something to the alternative. But assuming that this thing kind of continues to hold support somewhere in this middle range, then we're going to be looking for another leg back up to about 29.2. When we're looking at the total market cap chart, this is an interesting point, and this is why everything's kind of riding around what's happening with the S&P 500, because if the S&P 500 clears these range highs where we're at, then I think that that's going to set us in for a breakout across the board. What we noticed here, even though we have this potential of this big head and shoulder formation, something to understand with head and shoulders is if they have this big sell-off like what we saw here, technically this pattern should have broke down in this sell-off right there. But we didn't. We came all the way down. Technically, we flushed below the support for a short while, but all of our candle bodies actually ended up holding support. So this wasn't a confirmed breakdown. Anytime you have a head and shoulder formation like this that fails the breakdown, oftentimes that's a 70% likelihood chance of that producing a bounce. So that's just something to keep in note of. The fact that we were unable to break down from this pattern and we're still holding support inside of these candle bodies, that tells me that there is a very real potential that the SPX breaking out right here is most likely going to be where this holds support. If we can get back above this prior range, I think that sets us up for a retest up here in the same way that we were talking about for Bitcoin being up at 29.2. So that's kind of what I think is happening inside of the market. You know, we had a failed breakdown being this capitulation here. We rebounded off support. The S&P 500 is now looking like it's about to clear these short-term range highs. The total market cap has held support after a false breakdown. So far, there's nothing really that we can say is super bearish. I would say that up to this point, even though we have sold off, we never ended up breaking down in the way that if we were to see a much deeper correction, we pretty much would have had to break down right here. But I mean, anything is still up in the air. We're still consolidating. We're basically just right in between resistance and support. So we still have to wait for some more confirmation. One other thought here is Bitcoin dominance. This is really where we're going to see altcoins take off. And as you guys know, every single time we've hit this resistance, we have actually sold off. And every time Bitcoin has hit this, altcoins have always ended up outperforming as this ends up selling off and going back down to the range lows. So now the question becomes, is this going to end up rejecting in the same ways all the others have, or are we going to end up finally getting a breakout from this? Now you guys know what I've been talking about is the potential where we end up kind of clearing these range highs for one more final kind of capitulation like this, or blow off top if we're looking at this from a bullish perspective, where Bitcoin dominance breaks out, clears this range highs, and then that kind of starts, you know, the next leg down into our new cycle or bear market for Bitcoin dominance, right? And that's kind of the same thing I'm sticking to. I don't know whether we're going to break out or stay at resistance here. I would say that right now, the likelihood of this pulling back is a lot greater, considering the fact every time we have hit this, we have pulled back. It's not like it has to happen, but even if we ended up just getting a short-term pullback, maybe coming back down to the mid-range point before getting that final kind of breakout to the upside, that would be where I would expect to see that final breakout happen. I'm not necessarily anticipating that this is just going to keep kind of shooting straight up like it has been. I would expect, at least in the short term, we would see a pullback to the mid-range point before seeing, a final continuation point from this cycle. But regardless, for me, I think that the majority of altcoins are setting up for big waves. Whenever this ends up topping is obviously where we're going to see altcoins take off. But I mean, our entire last bull market was this for altcoins, and Bitcoin dominance never made a new all-time low. So, I mean, regardless of whether this breaks out and makes one final high or whether we top here, I think the big thing to understand is if we start a brand new cycle and this breaks down below our all-time lows, right? Because this is our all-time low for Bitcoin dominance. If we break down from this, then that means Bitcoin dominance is going to be in bearish price discovery, right? And if that happens, we're going to be expecting to see another one of these type of rallies for altcoins, because anytime we're seeing this breakdown, altcoins are outperforming. Dominance is getting absorbed into the altcoins. And so our entire last bull run for altcoins never saw Bitcoin dominance make a new all-time low. So what I'm trying to get at is it was very lackluster in comparison to 2017. The reason I believe altcoins are set to have such a monumental bull run in alt season this cycle is because this will be the first cycle since 2017 in which Bitcoin dominance is going to be going down into new all-time lows. That is a very, very, very bullish sign for altcoins, and that's ultimately why I think that this bull run is going to be way more profitable and powerful than the last one that we saw. But that's my analysis for you guys. That's the way I'm going to be sticking to. Question is support going to hold back down in here? If we're able to hold somewhere down in this low point, then I think that sets us up for one more attempt at a breakout of about 29 to 29.2 thousand. S&P 500 looks bullish. If we can get above these short-term range highs, roughly where we're at today, I think that that's where Bitcoin breaks out, along with the total market cap. But both of these are kind of in between stages. We are either going to have a massive drop to the downside, being a breakdown of the head and shoulder, or we're going to end up seeing this be a false breakdown and then us finish kind of a flow off top. So I think regardless, the next moves coming are set to be massive. So that's all we can really do is wait and watch and see. We'll get confirmation, and I'll keep you guys updated regardless of what happens. So if you guys found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to follow the trades that I post, anything I'm doing in the market with my own personal money, if you guys want to be able to copy all of those strategies over the course of the entire bull run and then future bull runs of wherever the markets are headed, whether it's crypto, stocks, commodities, anything I'm investing in, you guys are going to know all of the details. So if you want to join, there's a link in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. It's a lifetime membership, it's a one-time payment, lifetime access. So once you're in, you're always going to be in, regardless of the markets I'm investing in. So if that's what you guys want to see, you want to more or less follow what I'm doing with my portfolio, links are in the description. Thank you guys so much for following. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, liking, commenting, reaching out to me, asking questions, whatever it is, even just the people who watch the channel. I love and appreciate you guys, because the fact that I'm able to do this, the fact I'm able to teach you guys all of my own mistakes, things that I'm learning, as well as I'm able to learn from you guys actually. And that was always one of my most important things, was I wanted to create a place where I could teach back you guys, or teach to you guys the things I was learning, because I felt like it would help me also to grow more. And it really has. And I just want to say thank you all so much for the support. The fact I can do this every single day means the absolute world to me. And I just want to be able to give you guys back that value as much as possible. We got a new bull run. There's a lot of really cool things in store for us, and I do firmly believe that this one's going to be much more powerful than the last cycle, and it will rival 2017 in size. So thank you all so much, and with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.